Welcome back to Instagram versus Reality, the segment on the channel where we call out bad Photoshop practices and impossible beauty standards with science or just basic common sense. As always, these videos are intended to be informative and are not aimed to target or slander anyone's brand. This week's submissions are from r/Instagram Reality. This first picture that we have is different to the ones that we usually select. I mean, it is another badly edited picture, but this time it's not to change the proportions of the body, but the proportions of her hair. She wanted curls, so she thought, why go through all the hassle of actually getting curls when you can just do it in Photoshop or whatever application she's used in this picture. The curls are not the only offenders in this picture. As you can see, there's a lot going on, from the makeup, which has been applied digitally, to the background distortions due to the aforementioned wavy hair. Since this picture is of very low quality, any extreme changes are going to destroy the image beyond recognition if we try to fix it and show you what it did or how it should have looked before all the editing. You can see that even if we did edit it just a little bit, there's a huge amount of distortion, quality loss, and overall artifacts, so we're just going to leave it at that. For our next example, let's put our audience to the test. Look at this picture and tell us which one looks less real or which one incites the uncanny valley effect. We'll pause for a few seconds and let you comment down below. Now, if you thought both were real, well, then you're wrong. And if you thought both were fake, well, you're still wrong. The one on the left is supposed to be real and the one on the right is trying to be real. The right one is a computer-generated character called Lil Miquela that was created back in 2016, but only rose to popularity from 2018 onwards. If you check both their Instagram profiles, the CG character has 3 million followers and the supposedly real person has 5.3, which is not a huge difference, and it does highlight the priorities or the types of content that people are looking for. At this point, people seem to not care about reality, but only the aesthetics, and if the aesthetics means that less emotive faces with even less realistic features are the norm, then so be it. You can see in these pictures and in the pictures from their Instagrams that the computer-generated character is more expressive and emotive than this. Now, the picture has been edited in a lot of places, like the smoothened skin texture, perfect jawline, and perfect makeup. She's obviously wearing makeup, which she later enhanced in Photoshop. As you can see, some of the skin color, which is seeping into her hair, which can happen due to two reasons. While applying the makeup, she went a little too far, which is highly unlikely since her YouTube channel is dedicated to makeup and fashion, or she went too far in the digital makeup process. It happens if you're painting on the skin with a low opacity brush and you intentionally paint a little bit over the hair too. This ensures that you reach the edges, but at what cost? We're not even going to talk about the vanishing forehead wrinkles or the missing smile lines, but we will talk about how the folds under her lower eyelids suddenly just seem to fade away. This is a screenshot of a video of her, and you can see that she has more of a rounded jaw than the perfectly sharp jaw with a pointy chin than what's shown here. It is sad to see that people prefer this over this, but each to their own, and if there's a market demand, then somebody will meet it. Now, let's talk about Lil Miquela for a bit longer. The only time you can really see that she's not real is when they put her with other people. Even though your brain is programmed to spot even the smallest of inconsistencies, and you can spot a fake from a mile away. That's why recreating human faces in visual effects is such a challenge. You can't animate the micro expressions, the subtle details, and the skin expressions that make our face so expressive that we don't even have to say a word to show what we're feeling. Now, in the stills, you can fake it to look almost real, but something always ticks you off, and that's why you mostly see pictures of such edits and never videos. The latest technology does allow the ordinary person to manipulate live video like this, and we did touch on it in our Instagram versus Hollywood series where we looked at The Irishman and how they used visual effects to de-age a face in live video. Moving on to our next picture, we have another similar disaster of a textureless edit. This one is much cleaner and professional. The only thing that stands out here is the skin texture, and the texture you see is not her real skin texture. It's just some grain that's been added to make it look like skin texture, but we can tell that creating the skin texture using sandstone from the filter gallery is a very simple process. It works for our pictures because the pictures that we have here are of low quality and they're already heavily edited, so it's safe to assume that at some point They're not really going for realism, and it's more of an artwork at this point. In our later example, we're going to briefly explain how to and how not to edit such pictures. Let's talk about some of these ridiculous proportions that we see more and more of as the series goes on. Here, the waist is just not wide enough to hold all those organs in. I'm only going to say one thing about this picture. That's one hell of an elastic on those pants. How it's managed to retain its shape after getting stretched so much to fit all that is just beyond me. Now to fix this, we're going to again, with our friend and our foe, the liquify tool, we're going to bring the waist and the hips back to a realistic size. If we compare the before and after, suddenly it looks completely different, yet completely normal. Here we have a girl at an arcade with a butt that's so attractive that the guy's legs behind her are following the shape of her butt. It's just pointless to ask how people miss such obvious things at this point, because we've already said enough. Let's talk about fixing that poor guy's legs. We're again going to use the old liquify tool, and already you can see that it looks so much better, and the guy doesn't look like he's hiding all that pain behind that smile. We have Bella Thorne with makeup, but without any excessive editing, and honestly until today, I had no idea that she had so many moles on her face because I've never seen her without those filters, and for the first time, I can see what she actually looks like. I'm quite amazed by the fact that I've never really seen her actual face. You can see in this video, which was posted on Reddit, that with this filter you can get rid of some texture to make it look smooth but not too fake. You can still see the makeup but not the texture. In this picture, you can see some skin texture and none of the little blemishes. Her makeup is perfect, the highlights and shadows are smooth, but taking a look at Bella Thorne's retouched pictures, none of them show her real face. The one with stretched pores on her cheekbones and her nose and the moles that cover her face. There's nothing wrong with that, and I think she should embrace her real face, because when you see what she actually looks like, it creates a massively jarring effect. In photography, this is what's considered a defining or a characteristic feature, along with her various moles, which you cannot spot them in any of her retouched photos. If it was up to us to edit the picture, we would go about it by leaving the moles in. We're going to go quickly on this because we don't want this video to end tomorrow. We're going to go a little bit overboard to show you the extreme cases of retouching. Here, the stretched pores are reduced, some of the harsh highlights and shadows are fixed, a little bit of temporary blemish correction, and that's about it. You don't touch the moles or the skin color or anything else that's unique to the person. The rule of thumb is, if it's something that's temporary and won't be there next week, then you can edit it out, but if it's something that's transient and is a part of the face, then it should be left in. This is the correct way to retouch, where you correct the little imperfections, but you retain the characteristic features of her face, which are the moles or the beauty spots. We're going to keep the moles and smooth out the highlights and even out the shadows. Obviously, it's not going to look perfect since we finished the retouching in under 7 minutes. Usually retouching a picture takes from an hour to 5 hours to 8 hours, depending on how detailed you want it to be and what kind of picture and background we're working with. So this is what it should look like after retouching, and this is what it should look close to. But this is what they think it should look like, and I disagree with that. Alright, so let's finish this episode on somewhat of a high note. Here we have Kim Kardashian, and she's on the cover of Vogue magazine, where surprisingly they didn't edit any of the texture out, which is a round of applause for everyone. I mean, I'm surprised they managed to pull this off. It might have been slightly retouched, but nothing too crazy, and by her standards, nothing that stands out, which is a good sign. Compare it to this one, and it looks flat as always, which is a trademark of the Kardashian family edits, where they're just allergic to any human characteristics of the face or the body. We can use the same technique here to create the skin texture, but as we already mentioned, it only works for a certain type of image. To fix this, we have to copy the texture from a different picture and paste it on her face and body, but this was more of a comparison between the pictures that she posted and the one that the magazine posted. We're going to just stop here and not go any further then. If you find similar textureless edits or the unrealistic proportions anywhere else, then leave the links in the comments below. We're going to try to analyze them in our next episode. Alright, so that brings us to the close of this episode. Sometimes I forget what I'm saying. I'm reading a script, but I'll literally forget what I just read, and I'm not doing this live. I don't just come up with things off the top of my head. unless I do, which I do in another video. Hopefully you've learned something about Photoshop and the techniques that we've covered. Everything here was mentioned in a previous video somewhere along in the series, so if you want to learn more, just watch the series on Instagram versus reality, why not? As always, if you're enjoying the content, then you can support the channel by subscribing and click the notification bell to catch future episodes. If you're a brand and you want us to edit your photos in a conscious and ethical way, then you can contact us at Cube Studios and look at our portfolio.